About 30,000 people have been displaced in Kenya after their homes were demolished in the Kibera slum to make way for a new $20 million dual carriageway in the capital, Nairobi. The residents living in parts of the city's largest slum were given just 2 weeks' notice to leave, after which bulldozers moved in at dawn as people watched helplessly from the sidelines. Human rights group Amnesty International has condemned the evictions, but Kenyan officials maintain that the people living in the area were there illegally.
Would condemn this action. I think 30,000 households, businesses, schools, clinics, community centers, youth centers, all of this has gone down in the space of maybe 5 or 6 hours. The other concern that we've had is that there was an agreement that was reached between the Kenyan Urban Roads Authority, the Kenyan National Commission for Human Rights, and also the National Land Commission with community leaders that they would go through a process of developing a resettlement action plan, and that is not what has happened. Barely had we started the process of enumerating who was in this space. The bulldozers have arrived, and under armed guard, we've seen the destruction of tens of thousands of properties in this space.
Kenyan communications specialist George Orido joins us live on the program to tell us more about this. Thanks for joining us on Network Africa, George.
Thank you.
Thousands of people have been rendered homeless by this demolition in Kibera. What happens to them now that they've lost their homes?
It's a sorry state of affairs, yeah, because the evictions have happened before compensation. There's a very sad story about these demolitions. Nobody says that we don't want roads. Even the citizens, the people who have now been evicted say they have no problem with the road. But now the problem occurs when they're chucked out of these places and there's no money for them. I just talked to the communications director at the Kenyan Urban Roads Agency that is involved in this demolition, Mr. Chiboi. And Mr. Chiboi says that the reason that this might not have been accomplished because they tried to bring on board the citizens, the residents in 2016, and there was a protest. They refused to be part of the planning for the evictions. This plan of the road has been there, but he's saying that it's now blaming the citizens for all this that happened, the residents who have been affected today.
No, but George, where are they expected to go? All these people with their families, their children, where are they expected to go now?
Going to nowhere. It's cold, I can tell you, it's chilly in Nairobi. And it's even worse when you have no roof over your head. These families have been evicted, they have nowhere to go. One of the women who are being interviewed today, yesterday, when Mary Akoth, said, okay, she was planning to leave, but didn't have the money to facilitate her leaving. And when she was about to get some place that she would be moving to, the following morning, she gets that her house was no more. Everything that she had gone into rubble under this barbarian exercised by the Kura, Kenya Urban Roads Authority. So what I'm trying to say, they have no shelter. It's a dire state of event for them. And it's not very clear whether the Red Cross or any other humanitarian organization is on the ground to maybe assist. Nothing like that has been happening. No responses yet.
Now, like you said, Kura had promised to pay compensation, and give advance notice before this demolition. Why the sudden turnaround? Why didn't they, keep to the agreement?
Well, that's a big $1 million question. Why you should have people moving before you compensate them? And Cheboy was telling me that government at times work like that because it takes a lot of time to get money. I even asked him about the numbers of families that have been affected. Incidentally, he didn't have the numbers yet. He was telling me tomorrow is when they're going to have the final numbers. I asked him, why do you then remove these people even when you don't know the numbers involved? How do you even plan for people when you don't know the numbers? So this is a pure situation of incompetence and lack of humane approach to development. And it's not a very good thing, if you ask me.
Kenyan communications specialist George Orido, thank you so much for joining us on the program.